planning is needed at the grassroots level. First of all, I say, first just to save the people, immediate preparedness measures, cyclone shelters are needed, and then how the people is to be motivated. They have to be, you can say, some advanced planning of the educating the people, so that they should know they have to cooperate with the local administration at the time of warning. Say in case of cyclone, they say ki, now this cyclone is so much away, so much speed wind is going on. They also raise some flags, identification of flag 5, 7, 9. People should be taught ki what is the meaning of this flag 5, 7, 9 and what they have to do. Educating the people in general, in the village level, how they have to cooperate with the local administration is the first part of the preparedness for the next. Then how the administration is also, as he has rightly put, the immediate administrative response. Administration should also be fully equipped. How those people in the time of emergency, if they have to be vacated, how they will be transported, how they will be ensured that their belonging in behind will be safe, no thief will come. That is the duty of the administration to take confidence of the people. Then they have to take care of, when they are in the cyclone shelter, all their need during their essential commodities, their health care of their animals, everything will be taken care of. All this advanced planning is a part of the immediate disaster response by the local administration. As he has rightly pointed out, the next important component of the emergency planning, or you can say immediate planning, is communication. First of all, IMD, India Meteorological Department, or you can say in case of flood, Central Water Commission, they communicate the message up to a certain level. After that, how the communication is to reach to the common man, there we have got some gray area which we have to see upon. The local administration has to make a plan system. Warning can be through radios, but in nowadays, though we have very much advanced in the 20th century, now we're going to 21st century, but even radio is not available in all the villages. There is then other alternative is to be found by some man can go on cycle and say with bell or something like that. Any type of warning that has to be planned in advance. That is a part of the advanced preparedness, so that people should be ready to be moved. They should know what is being happen and how they have to be, how they have to cooperate with the administration. That is the major part of the public education. Then communication, as Professor Sani has also rightly pointed out, and we have also, being a part of the government system, accepted that in the Gujarat cyclone, this was the only factor which has caused substantial loss of human lives. Cyclone, as you know, though our meteorological department is perfect in tracking this thing, in the last stage when it is going to struck the land, nature is nature. You cannot predict which turn it may go right, it may go left all of a sudden. So you have got very minimum time, 12 hours, 6 hours. 6 hours going from the state headquarters, then going to the village level, it takes too much time. For them, it is too less time actually. Then we have to make our plan in such a way that in such a short duration, how the message can go to the lower level, so that many lives can be saved. This is the that's what I was saying, and a particular disaster give us a opportunity to learn from them, and preparedness and include those component lesson learned in our preparedness, in our next preparedness plan. So communication is another important factor, as has been told Professor Sani.
Well, thank you very much, Pasrija ji. Vinod, I think it is in the fitness of the things if we talk about the program planning, since we are referring to the planning and to the point with regard to the communication which has been raised by Mr. Pasrija. Since we have to have a discussion on communication, we would request him to further elaborate upon that. Now, when we are talking of the program planning, there are few aspects which are probably inbuilt in that. I would like to have your views on that thing. The first over there is that is identify the interest of different stakeholders and the common interest. That there is need, when we are talking of the planning, that we have to identify the interest of different stakeholders and the common interest thereupon. Would you kindly agree with me that this has to be probably inbuilt into our plan document when we are talking of the plan, that who are the people who are going to be affected and what are going to be their stakes onto that. Depending upon the stakes, probably we could have their involvement also being onto that particular plan or the program in a little assured manner. Do you agree with it?
I think it's a very, very important aspect which Professor Sani has pointed out. Let me elaborate this point a little bit. And this program planning, because very rightly said by Mr. Pasrija that central government, we are having this, the government policy or planning which, or some of the guidelines which we give, to the state government. Then state government is having, because this is the main responsibility of the state government. This is a state subject. Then district authorities, they have their own contingency plan and, this type of planning. But this point which is raised by Professor Sani is a very, very important thing, that at village level, at the time of disaster, there are different stakeholders. And when we are talking about preparedness planning, then we should have this thing into the consideration, that what should be the role of these different people. For example, I will give you one very small example, that if you prepare a map for a village which is flood prone, and you identify that this area is going to be inundated, or every year this is going to be inundated, then in this plan we will have to have, or we should identify a place where at the time of flooding these people should be evacuated or they should go. Then how many people they are going to be affected? For example, there are old people will be there. There are pregnant ladies. There is lactating, mothers. There is infants. So how these people will be evacuated and where they will go? So this is a very, very important point. And when we are talking about awareness, when we are talking about creating awareness, actually this awareness should be given to the people, that these are the, this is the target group. And when you are going to be, suppose you are having one boat. So in one boat, in first go, how you will take people. I mean, whether you will take the old people first or the disabled first, or what should be your program. Even this much should be the part of planning. Because planning is such a big aspect. It's not only the physical planning, it's not only the vulnerability, it's not only, there are so many aspects which are included. And there, as rightly mentioned by Professor Sani, that there are many, many stakeholders. So what will be the role of government officer? What will be the role of non-governmental organization? Indian Red Cross will reach immediately. So what they should do over there? Villagers, because if they will not cooperate, then a non-governmental organization or government agency, they will not be able to do anything.
Professor Sharma, I would just like to make a small intervention. Like the community and everybody, we are so used to this, having this traditional type of measures being taken in disaster preparedness. Like when we are formulating a sort of a long-term plan, do you envisage any sort of an opposition from any of these stakeholders? And if so, can any measures be taken to reduce this?
Uma, actually, Yeah, this is a good question. Because whenever we prepare plan, there is always one complaint. And this complaint is from the people, from the community, that they are not consulted in this. I tell you very frankly that the cyclone shelter, Andhra Pradesh is having more than 1,000 cyclone shelters. But how much cyclone shelters are effective cyclone shelter? This is the question. When you go to the community, they will say this question. They will ask this question to us or to the government authority that we were not consulted when you constructed these shelters. So
Yeah, it means that it has to be in consonance with the community.
With the community.
Yes. That the action plan has to be prepared in accordance with that.
So that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
And when now we are talking about that these shelters should be multi-purpose thing, they should be utilized. Otherwise, whenever there is cyclone, at one place or one village may be affected by cyclone in 50 years. So this cyclone shelter will remain idle, for 50 years. So that's why the government, the state government, now they are initiating this thing that it should be a multi-purpose thing. It can be utilized for some community.
So, well, if we mean to say onto it that after identifying the common stakes which are there, we have to prepare an action plan based on the priorities, right?
Exactly.
And then on the basis of those particular priorities, we have to sequence out the activities. Along with the sequencing out of the activities, probably one has to take into consideration the element of social accountability, because we do not find over here, more so in case of the disaster, that it is purely as organized an activity as we do find or we are accustomed with so far as our other living organization concerns are there before us. We talk of hospitals, we talk of church, we talk of universities, we talk of private enterprises, even we talk of the non-governmental organizations. But here it is something which is basically with regard to the human beings, with regard to the community, with regard to the society. So maybe there has to be something with on account of the social accountability. And then on the basis of that, we have to document the shortcomings, the successes, as well as the ways for the improvement on it. Probably on the basis of that, we could go ahead with it. Now, in keeping with the watch which we have before us, and as the session is there, we have around more than around 12 minutes onto it. I would like to have your attention, Vinod and Pasrija, onto the aspects of intervention planning also, since we are talking of the planning over here, that in the intervention planning, what are the aspects which are to be taken into consideration, which we must view before when we are preparing ourselves for or to meet any kind of the eventuality known as the hazard or the disaster, may it be flood, may it be drought, may it be industrial, may it be cyclone, earthquake, etc., etc. In the first of that is, which comes to my mind, is that is rescue team in operation. That what kind of the rescue team would be there? What kind of the operations are to be taken up? Of course, it is correlated with the overall action plan which has been formulated for a particular place, because every place is not prone to each and every disaster. Now, maybe that now, of course, we find it that a same district is having the flood as well as the drought, but those are absolutely an exceptional kind of the circumstances. But we are aware of it, as Vinod, you were referring to in the other day on the policy forum also, that the vulnerability atlas is there, which talks of the different kind of the hazards which are prone to different areas in the country per se. And then after the rescue team in operation, we talk of the first aid and the medical care, that how we have to organize it, what are the resources which are available with us, how far is the hospital from the village for that particular matter, how far is the primary health center, how well equipped is the primary health center. That has to be probably a part of the action plan when we are talking of planning vis-a-vis the disaster. And the third thing is management of the existing food stock, drinking water and other basic amenities which have to be taken into consideration. Then watching the weather forecast and preparation and identification and disposal of dead bodies and animals, because this particular last thing, that is this disposal of dead bodies and animals, it may be instrumental in spread of the epidemic, and there may be one disaster already there and it could further lead on to another disaster to that particular thing. So this is probably some of the aspects which have to be there in view so far as the intervention planning is concerned. Now, along with the intervention planning, I will talk up of this post-disaster action also, then we will have some time with us for discussion on this planning as such. The first thing which comes is that is the coordination among the local bodies, among the local communities, the NGOs, the district administration and so on, who have to take up the relief and the rehabilitation measures. It is very important. we are fortunate to have Pasrija with us today, whereas it is being alleged that number of the forums that the Ministry of Agriculture, Government of India, which is the nodal body, I hope Pasrija Sahab, you will not mind my saying it is the people, those who say like that, is that the ministry is involved more in the relief operations, and the disaster management in India means only the relief operations. Of course, I don't say it, I don't buy this statement also, but definitely it is what the people say. We have to accept it to some extent, whereas whatever it is, you will probably speak out it, that ministry is now taking initiative in the preparation, in the training, in education and so on, and already we are aware of it. Second thing is to mobilize the people to restore community living, cleanliness and potable drinking water, which is very essential. So when the disaster has taken place, that is in the post-disaster situation. And third thing is supply of the cattle food, which is very important. Otherwise, earlier they have been affected, become homeless or rootless for that particular matter, and now nothing to eat also or to fill their bellies. And the other thing is mobilization of support from outside. Certainly, media can play an important role onto it, and I am for sure that Government of India has initiated number of ways whereby the guidelines for the media persons and so on, a committee under the convenership of the Joint Secretary, and where the committee is being held by Professor Vinod Sharma, has been found by Government of India. So these are the three stages, Vinod, which I was having in mind. That is the action plan or the preparedness element, then the second is the intervention planning, and the third is the post-disaster kind of the elements. My simple question or the assumption is that would you agree that the planning is required at all the three stages?
Professor Sahni, I fully agree with you, and in fact, this is my fault partly because I should have explained it, right in the beginning.
No, not like
that. Preparedness actually having two separate components. One is this preventive measures, when you are talking about the preventive measures, and the second is in case there is disaster, then how we can give effective relief to the people, timely and effectively, how we can give relief to the affected people. And yes, at the time of disaster, what interventions should be there, this is very, very important. And in this, the search and rescue is very significant, because and there are very few organizations which are trained in it. So now we are thinking that we should provide training to some more officers. Now there is only civil defense people, they are trained in search, rescue operation. There is army people, they are trained in this. But some other organization, non-governmental organization who wants to work in health sector or in relief sector, we would like to give this training, search, then rescue, then how to take a patient to this needs training actually.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not a very simple
Sure.
thing. So very rightly said that at the time of disaster, what interventions are needed, how we can coordinate with different agencies, and particularly agencies who wants to work in relief operation. National, international organizations,
that's right, as well as
NGOs.
at the state and local level. I please excuse me for that. I would like to have intervention of Pasrija onto it. That since he is working with the Government of India, Pasrija sir, my concern over here is that could we or should we plan only for the disasters, or the functionaries of the Government of India, state government, and the functionaries, those who are there at the local levels, and also the local elected representatives and the bodies, that within their day-to-day performance of the things, probably they can take care of some of the underlying planning assumptions. I am referring particularly for that particular matter to the epidemics. Let us suppose that if there is a constant monitoring of the quality of water and the vector control is being looked into, then probably this spread of epidemic could be checked on count of water, number one. Number two, if the pathological laboratories are performing the tests, clinical and so on, in a perfect way, at a constant speed and interval and periodicity, probably we can check the arrest of the epidemics. My purpose of putting up these points to you for particular matter, because you are a government officer, is that maybe for this we need not to have the officials functioning only for the disasters, but while they are performing their day-to-day functions, they can contribute towards the effective planning and towards some kind of check onto the disaster.
Yes, you have raised very valid issue. Just in my opening remarks, opening introduction, I have already told you that the concept of this mitigation, in the concept of this mitigation preparedness, our first task is to sensitize our administrator at the all level, state, district and tehsil level. That is why we have the our institutional backup in the form of this National Center for Disaster Management. This will also give the explanation of the question with Professor Sani has raised, that we are limiting our activities only up to relief, not doing much towards the mitigation preparedness. In the recent past, as I told you, in the current decade, we have initiated many measures. Just like as I tell you, first of all, we have to aware our government machinery.
Very right.
That's why we have at the National Center for Disaster Management, where Professor Sharma is there, and similarly we have got the state faculties in many states. They are also doing, you can say, our local agent doing the same part. Unless the local machinery, as Professor Sani has told, they are aware that their job is not only to limit only up to relief, even after relief they have to see what they can do. And another factor which you have told about this, particularly with reference to the purity of the drinking water, I would like to mention not only this drinking water, in all aspect, distribution of PDS, there are, I told you that this disaster mitigation preparedness is a very, very vast subject related to each and every activity of the country. If this ongoing plan schemes, one of our sector where we are now concentrating is, we should have a disaster mitigation and preparedness component in all our ongoing plan schemes.
Very good.
If you say drinking water, there we have to say drinking water in the drought affected areas, drinking water in the cyclone affected areas, in the flood affected areas. They should know that flood will come, the underground distribution drinking water pipeline can be affected, what type of measure they have to take, so that if the water level in a flood season standing 5-6 days, about 6 inches, 7 inches, the water supply system should be intact. So when they are planning for their taking these pipelines, water drinking supply network in their full-fledged scheme, they should keep all these factors in view. Another example I can give you in case of construction of roads. If they keep in the vulnerability of that area, flood, cyclone, how much maximum rain can come in a particular year based on the previous record. If they make it that thick 1 inches, 2 inches more road, then in coming floods or heavy rain, that road will not be affected. Such type of initiative with the assistance of the Planning Commission is our target, and we are pursuing on this. As I told you, that sensitizing our planners and administrators, if we are having success in that, it means we have achieved much of that.
Professor Sani, I just would like to make when we talk about sensitizing the administration, various government functionaries, community, don't you think that sensitizing the Panchayati Raj functionaries also becomes a very important aspect?
That is very important, but then again the question is that, as it has been pointed out by Mr. Pasrija, that lot many institutions, government as well as non-governmental, they have to come forward for the purpose of taking these kind of the ventures. It cannot probably be, it is not possible for any single agency or institution to take care of it. But your question is very valid. It needs to be taken up because within their developmental schemes, these components with regard to the disaster, whether it is preparedness, whether we talk of intervention or the post-disasters, have to be built in a fairly good manner. Your point is very well. It needs to be taken up.
Uma has read very right. I was just saying first priority is those who are the implementers. Then we are coming, the next our big campaign is the public education and awareness.
Right.
So that they can be motivated to participate in our disaster reduction related activities.
Correct.
In that we need the assistance, because as all we know that we have got substantial population in rural area. Now we have got the institution, as Uma has rightly pointed out, Panchayati Raj system. Because I told you, Government of India directly can't deal with each and everything.
Yeah.
We have already requested, persuaded the state governments. We have our unit that's called Office of the Relief Commissioner in the state government. We have told them, and through our faculties in the state training institute, we have told them you must organize as a model basis the training programs for the panchayat.
That's right.
If the panchayat leader, they are convinced, if they are involved and they are ready to participate, then they can spread that message to their village. Villagers will very happily accept the advice of their panchayat than any government machinery.